In the past, I've made videos reviewing Overwatch 2's progression each year since its release. In those videos, I talked about the bad, the good, and the potential future. They tended to lean more on the positive side because between the content drought period of Overwatch 1, then Overwatch 2 just having a poor launch, the bar was set very low. But since then, the game has mostly improved. The thing is, those videos mostly compared Overwatch to itself. In the hero shooter genre, they haven't had much to compete with. There's TF2, a game made 17 years ago that's long gone into maintenance mode. Then there's Paladins, a game released around the same time as Overwatch, but never could truly compete with Blizzard's level of quality. How about that Gundam Evolution game? I bet you guys thought that was a dream, and rightfully so, because it lasted about as long as one. They shut down. Who would have thought? Mediocre Overwatch with mechs didn't take off. Crazy. Then there's the most recent shutdown story, Concord, a game with plenty of hype and eyes on it, yet a historically quick death on release. People like to say their character designs were bad, this and that and the fourth, but I mean really, they tried to charge $40 when all their competitors exist for free. Definitely not the smartest business move. But to wrap up this Overwatch competitors list, I have to give a few honorable mentions. Battleborn, a game that shut down. Gigantic, a game that shut down twice. And now more recently, Deadlock, which shows a bit more promise than the last two, but it's just an honorable mention because these games are more MOBA, so even though they take a slice of the pie, they can't outright replace Overwatch. It's like chess boxing versus just boxing or just chess. Mixing the two genres is fun, but most people want one or the other. Throughout all of this, Overwatch has comfortably sat on the throne as king of the hero shooter genre. That is, until a new challenger approached. Star Wars Hunters. Oops, wrong timeline. Marvel Rivals. This game is a big fuck you to Overwatch. The gameplay is the closest to Overwatch that any game is yet to replicate, but it also deserves some respect because it has its clear differences, such as third person, destructible environment, and balance philosophy. Nobody expected it to outperform Overwatch past a week, but here we are, more than a month later, and they're not only beating Overwatch in a popularity contest, they are destroying and establishing themselves as what could already end up being the most popular game of the year. So the question is, why should Overwatch make a comeback? Why not just let the game die? The simple answer is, competition is good. If it wasn't for that, Marvel Rivals wouldn't exist in the first place. It's totally okay to like one game over the other. It's like Coke versus Pepsi. And here's my preference of flavor. I think Overwatch is the better game. It just has one of the worst reputations in all of gaming, a severe lack of direction, and as of right now, it's getting outpaced in terms of content. And so the video begins. How to fix Overwatch. The first and most important thing is the reputation. I'm sure the whole world knows by now, Blizzard and Overwatch in particular has a bad history between scandals, overpromising, ignoring feedback, and overall just failing to deliver even half of what was one of the most anticipated sequels of all time. In recent years, they've done better communicating and not overpromising, but there's one big thing they have to do to communicate they want to right the past wrongs, and that is dropping the 2 off of Overwatch 2. This is a very popular sentiment in the community, and it just makes sense. The 2 in Overwatch 2 is a mark of disgrace. It's a symbol of failure, broken promises, and if we're being real, it just doesn't make much sense in the Overwatch universe. I mean, what do they call themselves? Members of Overwatch 2? Yeah, that doesn't ring very well. With that being said, Blizzard has the opportunity to regain some of the casual gamers' respect by taking the L and leaving the 2 in the past. Nothing would communicate an apology better to every player than this would. And if you want an example of a game with a terrible reputation that made a comeback, just look at No Man's Sky. That game by many was considered to be a scam. It was a space exploration game that boasted tons of content but launched as a wasteland with no content. No Man's Sky was the joke of gaming for a long time, and guess what? They said my bad, put their heads down, got to work, and actually made a good game to the point that faith was restored to the public, and now there's actual hype for their next game release. Now obviously the scenario with Overwatch is a little different, but it just goes to show that a game's reputation can be fixed. Another thing Overwatch can do to repair that is to fully pivot back to 6v6. Personally, I never cared which format we went with, just that we have to make the best out of what we got because, let's be real, there's no world where they were going to undo 5v5 within the first year or two. Now it's been 2 years, they tested it, and it's time to lean into it. 5v5, regardless of it being the better format in certain aspects, it's still one of those things tied to the disappointment that was launch Overwatch 2. The next major move Blizzard needs to make is to hire people. Yeah, I know, yeatle, Christmas just passed and the chances of this wishlist getting approved by Santa is slim jim. Here's the thing though, for Marvel Rivals' first season, they're dropping 4 new heroes, 3 new maps, and in the future seasons, 1 to 2 heroes and 1 to 2 maps. Their seasons are about the same length as Overwatch's, and Overwatch releases 1 hero every other season and 1 to 2 maps every other season. In other words, Overwatch is getting absolutely dusted in content output. I'm highly against the idea that devs are lazy. This isn't a government job. Most people don't work on video games just for the money. If you ask me, I think it's the failure of PvE in combination of penny pinching to the point of firing hundreds of people that have led us to this point. The good news is, Marvel Rivals has shown that there's an incredibly high interest in the hero shooter genre. This fact is the perfect ammunition someone at Blizzard could use to make Papa Microsoft start investing more resources into Overwatch. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but it's absolutely not impossible. A point I tend to hit on a lot in my videos are cinematics and origin stories. They really are the backbone of Overwatch. These short films got so many people interested in the game, and I bet there's many cases where it's brought them back too. People like to say Overwatch lacks a sense of direction because all they do is release heroes, maps, and skins. For the people who say that, I've got a newsflash. League of Legends has been top of the charts as one of the most popular multiplayer games for like a decade now, and all they do is add heroes and skins. They've been playing on the same one map before Overwatch even existed. I believe the reason Overwatch feels like it's lacked a sense of direction for a long time is because its story and characters are what give it that. Those things have fallen off hard since Overwatch 2, and it makes it really hard to care about the game. I'm not saying we need to finish the story of Overwatch. The reality is, now that we've gone live service, the story likely will never end. But at the very least, a sense of progression or even animated side stories with the Overwatch members would go so far. It doesn't even have to be serious. It could be something stupid like Day in the Life of Hammond. Or if we need to sell skins, I bet an Overwatch Beach episode would have gone crazy. And I hate to be that guy, but I bet Marvel's got their next 10 movies already queued up. Those are the major changes, but what Overwatch needs isn't just to undo, but to also do. So here's a list of lesser but still important changes I think would make Overwatch a top game again. First off, hero bans. This is a long time requested feature that only exists to improve the game. Don't like playing against bullshit? Ban them, and you might not have to. For some reason, the community has debated for years whether or not Overwatch has enough heroes for bans. Meanwhile, Rivals released with 9 less heroes, and it's their best feature by far. If I just had a bad game versus Widowmaker or Sombra, the last thing I want to do is play another bad game versus Widowmaker or Sombra. This small bit of control makes such a big difference and can even show the devs what heroes are problematic. I'd go as far as to say they should add it to every rank. Let every player enjoy bans, and if people just want a one trick, they can main a hero that's less obnoxious or just go to quick play. On that same thought process of giving players more control, Overwatch needs a map veto system. There's so many maps, they might as well let players vote against the ones they don't like. I know personally my enjoyment of the game would go up by a couple percent if I could vote against playing on Circuit Royale, Havana, or Midtown. Here's a hot take. Overwatch needs ability creep. Once again, I'm gonna reference Marvel Rivals. The game is unapologetically an Overwatch clone where everything is OP, most heroes have 1 or 2 extra abilities, and ultimates are win buttons to the extreme. This works in their favor because these low skill, high value interactions make bad players feel good. In Overwatch terms, it's the Moira effect. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Overwatch needs more Moiras, nor do we need everything to be broken like in Rivals, but I do think they need to make every hero feel more impactful. To name some examples, Lifeweaver's Grip cleansing anti, Junkrat being able to hold 3 mines, or it could even be small interactions like Genji being able to deflect Sigma's rock. They'd have to make these changes to every hero so no one feels left out. And yeah, triple mine Junkrat might have triggered some of you guys. But just remember, Marvel Rivals literally has triple stun Junkrat and gets away with it. When you realize that, it really makes you think, Overwatch may have been playing it too safe. Let's talk about skins. Overwatch owes the community some service. Yeah, releasing Kiriko, Reinhardt, and Mercy skins every 2 weeks is paying for someone's yacht, but it's at the cost of the community's respect, which is losing the game more money in the long run. I get that some heroes are just more favored than others, but surely it gets to a point of diminishing returns, right? Like, you can only wear one Reinhardt skin at a time. With cosmetics in mind though, mythic weapons, but more specifically, what they do in specs. This was a feature teased in trailers for Overwatch 2. Years later, we got it, and it's paywalled. I understand that the game is free to play and first person, so in-spec animations make money, and you know what? I encourage that. They should make more of these. But they owe all their players a free default inspect. This is a feature that was intended to be free. Paywalling them is a major slap to the face for everyone that supported the game over the years. Apex Legends has default inspect animations for every hero. What's Overwatch's excuse? As a final note on skins, simple and or wacky stuff would go a long way. I remember there was a patch where Orisa had a Santa hat. It's so simple, but I would have loved to keep it as an equipable. Or what about that April Fool's googly eyes? Why can't we have equipables? I guess we're just better off putting dev resources into making more souvenirs. Boy, do I look cool doing a 10-second wind up to spawn in literal shit. Another big point I want to talk about is casual content. Not everybody wants to queue up ranked and sweat all day. Hell, even quick play's too sweaty. As a matter of fact, it's proven in dev blogs that there's a large percentage of the player base that would play arcade-style game modes like Prop Hunt, Junkenstein's Lab, and things similar. So instead of using dev resources to make more of those, why not just let the players do it? What I mean by that is upgrade the workshop and give us a map editor. Before Overwatch, I used to spend my teenage years playing in Halo Forge and custom games. Playing infected lobbies, racing games, mini games, and I made a lot of friends and had more fun and laughs in those lobbies than I ever did tryharding in the main game. This isn't an idea from the past either. If you want a more recent example of this working, look no further than Fortnite. They have a massive custom games community, and the reason being is they've given their players the tools. Meanwhile, Overwatch custom game players have been playing the same 5 primitive game modes for years. What's happened to them is the equivalent of giving an infant some car keys to play with and then going for a milk run to never come back. Rapid firing through some other game changes, there's features they need to recreate or at the very least bring back. For starters, end screen cards from Overwatch 1. It gave people an extra hit of dopamine at the end of the game, win or loss. At least I had most healing or for environmental kills or 80% hook accuracy. It was a nice reason to stick around and maybe even talk at the end of games. Now the game ends and you have 10 seconds before play of the game finishes and you get cut off mid-conversation only to be greeted by the hero mastery screen, which feels like it only exists to stop me from queuing up again. Showing top 3 preferred heroes. Something similar existed in the past and then mysteriously vanished without a word. Even if people put one hero as their preferred, that's better than nothing. Say your other support is an Ana main, but you locked Ana and halfway through the game you're wondering why they look so lost on Lucio. Well, with preferred heroes, you could have known that from the get-go. Server selection. You have to pay for a VPN to change servers. Sometimes, as an East Coast player, I'm forced to West Coast, and ping is the difference between life and death when it comes to abilities like recall. Global leaderboards. It makes the game more competitive and makes top 500 cooler. In-game tournaments. Overwatch should have had this decades ago. Support a creator code. Fortnite has it, Apex has it, Call of Duty has it, and although Marvel Rivals doesn't have it, for Season 0 they were paying their partner creators for posting videos and streaming. I think the creator code is better because it supports every content creator rather than the select few, and it also more directly makes the game money. And finally, the last thing that will save Overwatch, release Jetpack Cat. Nothing would break the internet more than a flying cat with a flamethrower. Thank you. But to wrap things up, I want to bring you guys back to the beginning of this video and present you with a fun fact. Team Fortress 2. For 9 years, it was the king of its genre, until one day a game heavily inspired by it, called Overwatch, released and captured the hearts of millions. 1 year later, Team Fortress pushed out its last major update in 2017. It has since then been abandoned by its developers and left in a state of no content, known as maintenance mode. This occurring could very easily have nothing to do with Overwatch. But here's something funny. Overwatch has been king of its genre for 9 years, and now there's an Overwatch-inspired game capturing the hearts of millions. To what extent will history repeat itself? Thank you for watching, and as always, good luck on the grind.